It was Saturday, September 14th. The bar at Nelson Street in Bridgetown was packed with patrons just having a good time. Just before 2 a.m., masked gunmen entered the establishment, sprayed the bar with gunfire. When the smoke cleared, 3 men were dead, several more injured. It was the worst mass shooting in Barbados, but just one in a series of shootings across the country during that period, leaving the country wondering exactly what is going on. Why are the streets so hot? We explore the issue in depth in this series, The Streets. Kim Ramsey is a criminologist. She's attached to the Office of the Attorney General. She's also authored 5 books on crime in Barbados.
There are law causes to crime. At the individual level, there are people who have issues with substance abuse, mental health. Those are also contributing factors to criminality, and it's one of the more common ones that you see, especially with people who have personality disorders. So people who commit some violent crimes do have a history of substance abuse, mental illness, and you see it in the prison population particularly. There are also people who have challenges intellectually. They are inability to reason. One of the common factors as well, where you see people, you will see a situation, you cannot process it in a normal way. So people, because of the irrationality, they're not able to reason, all right, I should do step A, step B. They just do what comes to their head because they're unable to reason.
But is crime a personality trait?
Then there's some people who are just crime prone. I would have mentioned this earlier in an interview this week, where persons like to live on the edge. The excitement, the thrill, the adrenaline rush of committing crime, of the constantly being, as we say, hot, the chase. It gives them some kind of excitement. And some of these things are interwoven into their attitudes and their thinking and how they were socialized. So it is a combination of individual along with their environment and their traits. As I just said, it's a personality trait for some people. I don't want to use specific cases, but there's some people who love the excitement of being on the run and always being shot at and commit and stuff like that, and they're not going to stop until they're dead or until they're incarcerated. And even then, when they're incarcerated, they're going to come out and continue a life of crime. And we've seen a lot of people who have died over the years who live that kind of life on the edge.
Indeed, some research indicates there could be intergenerational factors.
But then there's socialization. There's some people who are socialized into a life of crime. The environments they come from, the communities, even in their home, in their households. You have parents who have that. It's intergenerational. They bad experiences with police, so they come along as children hating the police, hating anything with authority because of what they've been exposed to. Police probably doing raids in their communities or in their homes. So in their mindset, from a child, you would hear them with this anti-authority view on establishment, on police, on soldiers, on anything, as was said in the panel discussion. There's some people that just do not like to be policed, and they do not like people to tell them what to do, especially when it's authority. And that environment basically harvests that kind of mentality. If within the family, it may be grandparents, parents, siblings. They might have had an uncle who went to prison, and they have this thinking that I do not like the police. I do not like establishment. I don't like authority. The environment, the communities they come from as well also shape that kind of thinking.
Extensive research across the region has shown there is commonality in the causal factors.
So, and we will find, especially in lower income communities, not all, some lower income communities, there are some men who they're accustomed to drug selling, whatever, gun smuggling. Some people are exposed to that. That is a daily diet of violence, and seeing things like that. I've spoken to men in prison who said they have seen crime all their lives. They become numb to it. So for them, violence is a reaction that is normal because that's all they've seen all their lives. For some of us, we're not accustomed to it, but for others, it is their reality. Because from children, they've seen people shooting people, chopping people, they've seen violence, whether it's domestic violence in their homes. They've been fed a diet of violence from young.
Professor Corin Bailey is professor of sociology, crime and social inequality, and director of the Center for Criminal Justice and Security at the University of the West Indies, Kefil campus.
From young, almost exclusively, these young boys to men who are involved in violent crime across the Eastern Caribbean grew up experiencing intense violence. And when we say experience, that is a wide array of things. That might be indirect violence, where it is that you just grew up or hearing of, okay, John down the road got stabbed, or Peter got shot, or you're seeing it yourself, where you are immersed in intense community violence, very, very common, or you have experienced it yourself. You have been involved in community violence or family violence. That is very important as well. We tend to, in the region, ignore, even mock the notion that the violence to which a child is exposed to within the home through corporal punishment, etc., has an effect. Well, I'm here to tell you it does. It is all wrapped up in that. Think about a virtual basket of your experience with violence, and you're throwing all these things. You're throwing community violence. You're throwing it's seeing your mother get hit at home by your father, or you being beaten at home. All of these things equal your experience with violence, and we know enough now to know that there is no question that a child's exposure to violence has poses significant risks for whether or not that child is going to become involved in violence in the future. Proximity to violence as well, in terms of whether or not you had a family member that has previously been incarcerated, or a friend which obviously is very common with when we're talking about gang activity, because you are immersed in these social groups that many of their activities involve violent behavior. So having friends or family members that have previously been arrested or previously been incarcerated, also we have found to be a significant risk factor as it relates to violence.
Indeed, there are several risk factors. Cheryl Willoughby is director of the Criminal Justice Research and Planning Unit.
We did a study in 2019, 2020. Professor Devonish would have done that study for us, that looked at the risk factors within the communities, and we also looked at the risk factors from the individual perspective. The risk factors at the community level, we saw a high number of youngsters disengage at the community level, not going to school, hanging around on the block. We saw pockets of poverty, obviously. We saw densely populated communities where sometimes you would see 8 or 9 persons living in a household with 2-bedroom households. And also we saw some of these youngsters who indicated that they needed a job but could not get a job, right? So unemployment was also an issue there. When we looked at these youngsters now at an individual level to identify risk factors, we saw that many of them came from, the single family home. They indicated to us they did not have any male role models. Some of them had male models, yes, but those were also incarcerated. They had problems with their family relationships, especially the girls having problems with their parents and so on. And that's why a lot of them indicated that they left home for whatever reason, right? So those were some of the risk factors we saw at the individual level.
Jamari is one such victim of social and economic circumstances. He lost his mother when he was just 16 years old, and in his words, found himself on the streets hustling just to survive. This led to several stints at Dodds Prison.
Listen, my mother died from about 16 years old.
You can never be too prepared, yeah?
Friday was a man to know.
Your mother passed away when you were 16.
I was 16 years old.
And what happened to you?
Like,
What was your life like?
my life is like, I go to hospital, go again and get it. Not that you was forced to go and rob. Not you was forced to go and rob. You understand? You wasn't forced to go and rob. Mm-hmm. It was like, you go and eat. Mm-hmm. If you go and eat, what's gonna happen? Mm-hmm. And you know, as I said, a hungry man is an angry man. Mm-hmm. So the moment I get hungry, I go and look for money.
For Jamari, it was a struggle for survival.
To try to survive. You understand? Yes. I ain't got 10 of this. I hand about to buy me the clothes now and then or do that sort of thing. So me, I was always a hustler, born hustler, I do it by myself, you understand? Like, I got my little man, just make sure my little man rotate, you understand? No boy else though, come and put that at the table, everyone in their butt out here, just make sure it's good, because you know what part I come from. But I can't beg you, beg you. I can't make sure that it's good. I can get and hustle it. You see the man that out here that got it, he better off than we that ain't have it. Because he could go home later down, he could do whatever he want to do. But we know, he's back from 5 to 5. Because we looking for money, we hustling. But I got one person that's going to appear upon a night. Then me looking to hustle, how we hustling, we looking to teach people things, do a lot of foolish things, and they know we just get harmed for it. Because we hustling her, and then we police pull up and we just go around.
What struck Jamari during one of his stints at Dodds Prison was the large number of very young men in jail.
I've been in jail, and I asked, this youngster, how old he is? 20. I look around another youngster, he look like the same age. That's why I asked his age. I asked the other youngster, what is the other youngster age? Tell me he's 19. Charged for firearm. Looking at all these youngsters, I can see that none of them have lost their mother features. And everybody's 2021, 2021, 2021, 2021, 19. Mm-hmm. These 16s and these 17s they dump on our building. I mean up on the J and the H, they dump on our building. But what happened is only that jailing, teaching these children and teaching these people not to like, do a combat, do a be wrong jail, do a be wrong this. You just
need more rehabilitation.
Yeah, more than that. It needs something more better. It needs like something like a school, like, if anything, like, to get CSCs and certain different things. Like even like who's scared trying to do with the ball car, I think you can do that sort of things in prison. Just got men saying no idle. So when a man idle, all he can think about is when he get back out there and repeat what he doing. Yeah. He want to elevate to go forward.
So you want to see more programs help?
More programs.
Turn their lives around when they come out.
Like work now. I believe that they can put enough programs in prison right now. Yeah. Because too much youngsters in jail. Yeah. Everything looking people, what age you see? Mm-hmm. 20, 21, 23.
16, 17, 18. Yeah.
You know, seeing a 30. Not just one, you seeing a 30. If you see a 30, maybe for marijuana, a lot of marijuana. I tell you, things change so much. These youngsters burn, I don't know, going in different.
Is there a lack of guidance? Family guidance, family?
That too.
Cheryl Willoughby thinks gun crime among young people in this country is reaching crisis proportions. And she's especially worried about the fact that many of the perpetrators are just teenagers, some as young as 16 years old.
What is concerning to me, and I would have had a discussion quite recently with my staff, is that last year, 2023, when we look at the data and we look at the accused persons accused for murder, we saw that the average age was 16. And for between January this year and June this year, we are seeing an average age of the murder accused being 18 years old. So I'm saying that at some point in time during the school age of these youngsters, somebody should have picked up some sort of problem with the individual so that that person could have been referred for assistance, whether it's psychological assessment, whether it is a dispute resolution program. Something should have been recognized either by the parent or by the school that that child attended in order to be able to have early intervention into the lives of our young people. I'm sure when you see statistics that tells you that someone accused for murder, the average age is 16, that's a child. Although under the criminal justice system, it's not technically a child, but when we look at the international environment, that person is still a juvenile.
Why are so many young people in this country involved in crime? Some point to dysfunctional families. What they say is the quality of parenting. Cicely Clark Richmond is the director of Barbados, Parent Education for Development in Barbados. Often hear as people discuss the crime situation, parenting is one of the factors. Do you agree?
It can be, because let's say you are a mother, a father, you're raising a child in a home. How you establish that home in terms of the values, in terms of the morals, etc., etc., is going to influence that child. And that child is going to spend a large amount of time in that home with you and the rest of that family. Now, if that is a dysfunctional family, if that is a family where there's constant arguing, there's constant bickering, where mommy is out, daddy's in and out, I'm seeing different people coming into the home all the time, and there's conflict, there's poverty. All those things are breeding grounds for crime. Because if there is no, I mean, all of us will have problems in our families, there's no question about that. But if there is no pathway to help, if there's no pathway for somebody for me to talk to, somebody who understands me. Yes, we had a fight last night, but mommy and daddy still love each other. Mommy and daddy still care about you and we love you, etc., for that child. That child is going to be feeling like, what's going on here? Nobody wants me. Nobody's listening to me. Nobody's caring about me. And then somebody on the block comes by and says, hey, how you doing? And you, that person offers hope, offers some sort of caring and attention, because a lot of times it's about attention. If that person offers that attention, and along with that attention comes, not so good ideas, let me go and try something here on the block and see what happens. You go back home and there's arguing again, there's fighting again when you come back home. Who do you think you're going to go to?
And then again, there are the economic factors. Professor Corin Bailey.
Despite the fact that each territory is very, very different, a lot of the causes are similar. My work began in Jamaica, where I was looking at issue of social exclusion and crime. We know there to be instinctively we know there to be a strong link between poverty and crime, but that is very hard to show empirically, right? It's very hard to show a direct link between poverty and crime. So in came something called social exclusion, which looked at deprivation in a more holistic way. So we're talking about exclusion from all that matters. So that includes poverty, so economic issues, but it also includes, lack of education, lack of involvement in political processes, alienation from society, and from all those institutions that you come into contact with, like police, like the justice system. So that was where my work began. I developed, for my thesis, I attempted to develop an index of social exclusion, looking to show how, as communities increase in their level of social exclusion, does crime
Define social exclusion
along with it. Well, it is that all-encompassing deprivation. As I say, it is exclusion from all of those systems that matter: education, economic, political, and very important also is your alienation from outside society.
When you're on a job, there's a few families, and then it's born on water,
Yeah, just do it, get me. I can do anything to get me to feel something. You know what I'm saying?
Said stop fighting be hard. Boy says son he's up. Says son cannot be hard.
But even in some of these at-risk communities, perspectives sometimes differ.
But to have some youngsters that don't want to work, them just prefer
I don't mind
to go and do
but that's their
foolishness.
choice. That's their opinion.
You can't necessarily.
But you can't carry a coat to your and force it to drink.
No, I understand that, my brother.
But show them the guidance.
Yes.
I don't play there. Show them the guidance.
Yes, but not all elders are
Sometimes it's come from home. Sometimes it's come from home. Because children have been children.
But they're hungry.
Back in the days, they always was so hungry.
Let's go back at this. Do you say you were in it?
Pardon?
Tell me your younger days.
My younger years, I used to do crime. I used to do whatever.
Like what? So
No, I just drawn a reference.
Yeah.
I changed my life. I changed a lot.
how do you get involved with crime?
Because I was growing up and I was used to be on the block. I make a decision to do something positive. But I work with this hand. For years in the government.
How old were you when you started?
Pardon?
How old were you?
I was in Canada. I left Barbados at 16 years old. Spent 21 years in Canada. Came back to Barbados and changed my life in once. When I see people that used to be like doing, I said no. I get in trouble by seeing them. One boy I saw was my mother, which she passed away. I said no, I will never, ever, ever fear her dream. She told me, be nice, but
How much of your background?
pardon me.
How much of your background, your family environment, your home environment, what part of that played?
That
When you went
living,
astray, when you went astray?
it was my grandfather, my grandmom, then passed away too. I had a choice to stay in that life that I used to do.
I want to say give us that first, but how you got into at what age? When you were born, right? At what age? And what
From
people
10
were-
years old.
10.
10 years old.
Doing what?
Pardon me?
Give me an example. What's sort of crime? Like,
Why? You can't speak about that. It's crime.
yeah. And why
There.
at 10? What were the factors? That,
Because I followed them and they chose to do things. So I realized they don't make sense. And the only one that they did for me was my mom. So I'm gonna get caught up with the law. I ain't seen nobody else but my mom. My mom tell me I have a choice. You gonna stay there or you gonna move and come with me? I ain't bailing you. I said, mommy, here what? I come in with you.
yeah.
And then turn back.
But what are some of the other factors leading young people to a life of crime? Some point to changing culture, outside and foreign influences, even social media.
Even we self that living in, sort of called stigmatized environment, we can't even tell you what's really the source. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that is tied into it. There's a lot of variables. I mean, one being social media, and then these people believe it too that they got something to gain from this. You know what I mean? About the whole peer pressure and how other people feel and how people look at you and or use the man to fear. There's a lot of things that is feeding to that. There's don't be no one thing in particular. Yeah.
A lot of these things are individual. A lot of these things are individual choices also. Because as Randy said earlier, we don't promote that here
At all.
At all. We don't deal with no sort of violence.
So the individual vendettas, but I want to get back vendettas, but I want to get back to you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned social media. Tell me about that first. We go to the similar point. How the impact, how does social media impact drive influence some of these
Yeah,
violence?
but I feel like it's all it's common knowledge now at this point because being Barbados generally was Americanized, so I feel like it's all because like other trends and things get set like over in other parts of the Western Hemisphere where we just like just attach yourself to that and want to feed into that because like I feel like that's just the in thing at that given moment.
What is
how
the
we
in
just
thing?
dress, the
Okay.
music.
You mean the hip hop culture?
That as well too. Yeah, but it's that and a whole other heap of things too.
Such
You know
as?
what I mean? Like, you know, sex, media, music, you know, movies, all these things. Yeah, some of everything.
Everything is taken back into everything.
Everything is
Everything is taken back into everything.
So tie back this social media and the cultural trends back to the violence and the actual shooting.
Yeah, that has a part to play. That is a part of it.
How?
I mean, I want to say
Just by influence.
by influence too. Because I mean,
Influence, impact, these type of things.
right.
Fellas want to be bad man?
I mean, that is too. As I said, it more idealized and praised. No, granted that you're seeing a lot of people that singing music that are gangsters and doing jail and killing people and people just look up to that.
Things,
You know what I mean? It's turning from more block culture into gang culture now. You know what I'm saying? So people like really like believe in this thing right now.
So
you know what I
aspire
mean?
to be a gangster.
Yeah.
They think it's cool.
Yeah, it is. Even the dancehall music too is a good example of that. Look at the angles that the men is taking majority of that. I'm not saying everybody, but we talking about the mass majority. And that has to be violence. You know what I mean? And that's what people to be praising. That's what people like. It is what it is. Because we need
things get glorified too, you know?
Yeah.
Through all the things that he just mentioned.
Social media status, you get things from it. So people actually need these clothes. So when you want to buy your clothes, like
Clothes.
clothes on the phone.
Clout.
Clothes.
Let me club.
Yeah.
C-L-O-U-T or C-O-L-O-U-D?
C-L-O-U-T.
Club or club.
Yeah.
Club.
Yeah.
Okay, club.
Correct.
That's why you know word for fame.
It's new word for fame. Yeah.
People say it's a clout chaser.
They don't know what is really get over it. They don't really see
So
the
fellas-
impact. Well, you see the impact.
So fellas see you being a bad man, being a gunman, that gives him club.
It's true. You know it too. Everybody know it.
No,
They feel it. You know how it is. That's it. That's it.
But
It's
what
powerful.
he's saying is just it get glory. These things get glorified through the music, through the movies, through the clothes we wear, like just through a lot
train.
of different mediums
Train.
that are impactful and influential. That makes sense?
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So that's a little bit of how you could sum up where not for these things would be coming from. You know what I mean?
You mentioned
Glorification of all stuff.
glorification of violence.
Yeah.
The culture change.
That is very true.
It
It is glorification of violence. for sure. That is a very
Everybody
big part.
had lots. We went to the 80s with the disco. Everybody now had the hair
Afro-
Jerry curl
Afro.
on the
Afro,
afro.
Jerry curl.
So the cultural, as it changed, the cultures end up coming back into society.
Bad man culture.
So right
Gang
now,
man.
and that's the
Gang man
same
culture.
right now as it stands.
Social and economic challenges, parenting, family dysfunction, change in values, cultural shifts, even the impact of social media, all affecting life on the streets. Next on the streets, a dive into block life. You were shot.
Yeah.
Show me where you were shot.
Right there. Hold up. So you maintain and come over.